Welcome to Money Matters with Shak. We are talking today about surviving divorce. This series is about surviving tragedy, the mental, emotional, and financial impact that it have on a various topics. So today, my guest today will be talking about divorce. Welcome back to Money Matters with Shaq. Again, today we're talking about surviving divorce. My guest today is Dr. Cassandra Bradford and Colette Portis. I would like each of them to tell you a little about themselves and what they do.
I am Cassandra Bradford. I am a business consultant based out of Dallas, Texas.
Hi, I am Colette Portis. I am the founder and CEO of Red Development Group, an operations and strategy company.
And of course, I am Shakilia Caro with Shea Asset Management Group. So today we are going to dive right in. So, with regards to divorce, there is so many things that come with that. When we're talking about the financial impact, we're talking about the emotional impact of divorce. It is never easy. And so I want to dive right into the questions. Tell me a little bit about your your marriage. How would you describe your marriage? Let's start with Colette.
So I've been married twice. And if I'm going to be honest with myself and everybody else, the first time I got married, because I was mad at my son's daddy. So I got married to a man that I felt like was better than him. He had some characteristics that I felt like my son's dad didn't have. And he was a great man. He just wasn't my man. And then over the years after maturing, I realized that it ain't my job to change anybody. So I'm not about to try and do that work. And so we ended up divorcing. And then my second husband, we had been friends since I was like 13 or 14 years old. And about maybe 20 years later, we reconnected and ended up getting married. He just was not ready to be a husband.
Mm,
He didn't know what that was. He had no example. He was a man who grew up without his father in the home and had no real examples of what it looked like to be a husband or what it looks like to just be the man of a house. And so I carried that weight for so long. But after a while, as a woman, you can only carry that, you know,
absolutely.
and carry your role in the relationship as a woman and then trying to carry his as well. And he just never was able to make the transition. And it got to a place where he even admitted after we were divorced that he tried to sabotage everything. Like before we got married, I bought a house and all that. He tried to sabotage it and all of that. So, um, my relationships, both of them loved me, still do. But love looks different, and what I need as it pertains to what love looks like could be different than what somebody else understands love to be and what they have the capacity to give.
So, out of the two, which one would you say had the most impact emotionally and financially?
As far as, well, they both had impact on both sides. So my first husband emotionally had the greatest positive impact. When we were married, we pastored a church, and he really taught me, helped me transition from being a Christian to being a follower of Christ and knowing the word and
Mm,
praying, because this man would go in his closet and pray until he sweat, like he was serious about it. And he taught me what it meant to be serious about God and how to follow Christ and know the word for yourself and not be influenced by what people just say, as far as it pertains to the word. My second husband was um, led by ego.
mm.
My first marriage, I left everything. When I tell you I got a divorce that day and got on the plane, left my car, everything. I took my clothes, books, and shoes because those are the things that were important. And I left because what I needed was my peace and I needed to become me again.
Mm.
But I didn't understand how to do the work in order to become me again. So I got into a second marriage. And in that second marriage, uh, because of his ego and all of that, there was just he just could not make the transition. And as women, if we're honest, we begin, because the way God created us, we begin to change ourselves and adapt and mute ourselves.
Accommodating.
Absolutely. And I'm an entrepreneur. I have been since I was 14. And with my first husband, I was still that. That's when I published my first book was with him. And I still designed and did hair and all of the entrepreneurial things that I did. With my second husband, I did none of that.
Wow.
None of it at all. And so what I understood at the end of it all was I was working real hard to save him at the same time losing
Losing
myself.
yourself.
And so from that relationship, I was willing to walk away again, because here's my thing. I am a black woman in America, and I know how to go get it. And so if I went and got it once, I'll go get it again. So none of this material stuff matters. What matters is my peace, and that I know who I am, and that I can continue to grow in that.
Gotcha. What about you, Cassandra? What was
You
your
have to
marriage
answer that
like?
question all over again. So my marriage, my first marriage, I'm like Colette. I've been married twice, but my first marriage, we met in church, and we were both ministers. And we abstained from sex or any even the appearance of sex. And so we got married 6 months later after we met, and my husband was abusive.
Mm.
Just like Colette, lost all of my identity, the things that I thought would, me patterning my life after my parents that had been married for over 52 years. I came home, I cooked everything. I cooked chicken, fish, pies, and cakes, and he was angry. And I had never seen anyone, he wasn't mad, he was angry. And I thought he was broken. I'm like, who don't want to eat?
Right.
And
That
but
part.
he was very, very abusive. And it I lost my identity trying to figure out what was causing him to be so angry. How do you go from 0 to 100? How do you wake up mad? I didn't understand that. I just never understood that. And trying to understand him, I lost myself. So
Gotcha. Well, my marriage, I was married once, so I'm breaking up the chain here. But I thought we had a very nice relationship, a very nice marriage. We had a great friendship. I always say that was my dude that we could go from the boardroom to sitting on crates at the car wash with hoodies and Tims on, right? He was that diverse. And so it was great until it wasn't, you know? And so I'll kick off the next question, which is what was the demise of the marriage? And for me, my marriage ended due to infidelity. Right. So he had a long term relationship with someone. So it wasn't just, hey, I'm going out and hit something. I don't know. We might have been able to work on that, but no, he had a all out affair for almost 2 years or so, and so after experiencing something like that, it's like I can't even trust your smile because we weren't going through turbulence. It wasn't like we weren't still holding hands and slapping butt as I call it, and still very much into each other. So I thought, so that means that you could smile at me every day and say everything is okay while you going out the door doing what you're doing. So I could never feel safe again. So how did yours end?
My first marriage, I just knew that I knew it wasn't it. And I knew I was standing in his way and he was standing in my way. And I feel like I can't tell a person that I love you and stand in their way. And I can't
Mm.
tell me that I love me and allow somebody to stand in my way. And I knew he was going to make some woman an amazing husband. It just was never going to be me. And
Wow.
that's it. And we're still friends to this day. And I remember, so my son's not his son, and I remember one day I said something to him. We were arguing, and I said something about my son, and he yells, "That's my son too!" with everything in him. And I stopped because it shocked me, and then I just busted out laughing. I was like, "All right, bro, you got it."
Right,
Like
right. What could you say to
you
that?
like, bro, you win. Like I can't. If you're that passionate about
Yeah.
somebody else's kid, like, and that's how he was. So I was like, you got it, and I knew that I would, even though he's a writer and a film producer, and he's not done any of that since we've divorced. Um, and but I knew he was all, but I knew he could become more, and I don't know what's happened that he hasn't, but um, while I felt like he could with me, I wouldn't. And so that's how that ended. And then my second marriage, when I tell you this dude, I ain't gonna tell y'all that story, but this dude would
Are you sure? Should I
child
make you
no.
another kind of drink?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, but he would literally get mad, and I remember he would get mad because we moved here to Texas from Michigan. And he would get mad and pack all his stuff and go to Michigan. Son, listen, how many times we doing this? So the last time he did it, he packed all of his stuff and he left. And the on the way out, he would always say, "I don't want a divorce." Okay, whatever. I would never pay attention to that because I already knew. I always knew that you ain't want that. You just saying that because you're trying to hurt me, but that don't hurt me.
Right.
So the last time he did it, I was like, okay, and he was just like, "Wait, did this say okay?" I think she said okay, and she might
And
be
that's
serious.
really, you really was like, okay,
Oh
and
God, I
that
was
was done?
done. Oh, I was done. I was never going to say it if I didn't mean it. If I say something, I mean what I said. So I was never going to say it if I didn't mean it. And so that
Wow.
day I said, okay. And when he got back, it was some divorce papers. I mean, I'm just saying, it's Texas, 60 days. Put that stuff in the newspaper and we done.
Ah,
We ain't had no
no,
kids.
ma'am.
Bro, listen, you can have everything, the house, all of it. You can have all of it. I don't care. I need my peace. And if I'm not going to get it with you, what is the point of any of this? If you're not making me better and I'm not making you better, or because really what happens, because we black women in America, we gonna make you better
Mm-hmm.
while we
The come up.
sacrifice, while we
Mm-hmm.
become less, just so that you can feel better.
Mm-hmm.
I ain't signing up for that.
So what was the last straw? How did yours exit?
Well, first, I need to say my second marriage was a great marriage. I didn't say that in the first segment because my husband was non-combative, non-confrontational. He wasn't a great person to gossip with, just so you know.
He didn't
So
participate. He
no,
didn't
he
do
was
the
like, I
Chris
feel
Rock, the
like
uh-huh,
no. He
get
was like,
out
I
of here.
think they told me in confidence. I'm like, you couldn't tickle it out of them, nothing. I'm like, let me, yeah, nothing. But my my first marriage, he was abusive, and I think I said that he was very abusive. And in the end, I became the abuser. I'll tell any woman, and if you don't get help, you'll become the abuser.
So you was J
And
Lo
in the
on enough?
end, in the end, I became the abuser. And you know how you catch a glimpse of yourself? I was kicking in a door and I caught a glimpse. And I'm like, what am I doing? I'm kicking in doors now. I'm gangster. When did this happen? Right? And
Oh my God.
I ended up putting myself in counseling. And even though I was mentally, I had already checked out. I was already gone. I was like, I'm just waiting for the opportunity, right, to solidify me going to file these papers. But that was my bottom, and it was amazing. He anything would set him off in being abusive. But after I got pregnant, I couldn't pay him to put his hands on me. That's when I wanted him. I felt, I don't know, something rose up like you could take him. You 5'5", he's 6'5", so what? And but that was the bottom straw when my daughter she got a cookie lodged in her throat and she turned purple. And I'm screaming for help, which he taught CPR at his job. And he looked at her and said so. And that was the bottom straw. That was,
Wow.
as soon as I get this cookie out of her mouth,
I'm done.
you dead. No.
Oh. Oh,
Yeah. That's what
excuse.
I was like.
Oh, I meant to wear pearls. I meant to wear pearls today.
No. You need to meet your maker, or whichever maker you're going to meet him. And that was the end. It was no.
Wow. So the second one ended
My second
more
marriage
peaceful.
ended. My husband had PTSD Q. If you know anything about mental
I
health,
don't know the Q one.
Q. had to do with morality, promises, from being in the military. But he
Gotcha.
also heard voices. And so, I would come home and the sofa, somebody's taking the sofa out the front yard because somebody told him to give give away the sofa. Or one day, I noticed because we pulled money out of our 401k because he wanted a BMW, and he was one of those guys that did everything. So it's kind of hard to say no, So we didn't want a car note, so we bought a brand new 740 for his birthday, and came home 3 months later and it wasn't there. And he said that somebody said that they wanted it. To this day, we don't know who somebody is, but.
What?
And then when we realized, my brother is a psychologist for PTSD, and so when my brother started educating me on what PTSDQ was, we basically had to bombard the VA because the VA wasn't doing anything, and to get him on the right medication to have him where he wasn't having side effects
Got it.
to it. But in the end, the voice would tell him that he wanted a divorce. And like Colette again, I don't know, we're kind of simple. Last one, I'm like, okay, you, because every time he would ask me for a divorce, I would end up in the hospital because it would come out of nowhere. It was never a
Wow.
cause or a reason or something happened. It was, oh, good morning. What are we doing today? We're going to eat and go get a divorce. You'd be like, what? Wait a minute. That don't go together.
See, that lends to the safety thing I'm talking about. Like, how could your spirit be safe with someone when you don't know what they're thinking? You're going along thinking we're good, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So, we're going to take a break after the word from our sponsors. Welcome back to Money Matters with Shak. We're going to pick up where we left off. So, on this next segment, what I want to talk about would be the financial implications, or better yet, let's talk about how you navigated your emotions through this process. I know we talked about, we told some stories and everything about how everything ended, but the emotional side of that, like what did you go through emotionally and how did you come out of that?
What's crazy for me is, so I was blessed that it in neither of my marriages there was any infidelity. Got out of my second marriage, was in a relationship with this man for another man for 5 years who was, let me tell you something. He was a lie. He was a lie, and the truth wasn't in him. Everything
Nowhere.
nowhere, honey.
Not even a pinky toe?
He told me he was from New Jersey. He from Waldo, Arkansas.
So he told unnecessary
He
lies.
told me his middle name was Dwayne. It is Dwayne. He said he had no kids and never been married. He had 4 kids and had been married.
Quattro?
Huh? Let me tell you how I found.
Okay.
Only way I found out is because me and his mama is thick as thieves. And she just was talking. She didn't mean to tell me. But I found out everything, baby. This is what but that I to this day I will say that relationship was one of the greatest blessings in my life. And the reason is because while I went through both of my marriages, what I didn't understand was the trauma that I carried from my father.
Mm.
And I vowed to never date a man like my dad. Ever. And when I tell you this dude is so much like my dad, they are still thick as thieves. Their birthdays are like
Your
3 days
dad
apart.
and dude?
Yes.
Okay.
I have not been with this man in more than 10 years, and probably every 6 months my dad will, well, you want to give him another chance? You give him a chance.
Well, he done gave him a chance. He already made his
Well, whatever
decision.
chance he asking me to give him, he should give him. You know? So I ended up with this man who was just like my dad. I mean, he didn't. Now the difference between he and my dad is my dad will just tell you the stone cold truth, and you just have to decide if you're gonna deal with it. This dude, there was no truth. He would not tell the truth at
So
all.
he was the rebound? Would you call him a rebound?
Probably, yeah, I would call him a rebound.
Okay.
But here's why I say he was my greatest blessing. Two things happened. I was with him for 5 years. I was very sick for 5 years. The
Mm.
5 years I was with him, I didn't find out what was wrong with me until 2 days before I was leaving him. Crazy, right? Um,
Wow.
and but we're talking about trauma, and we don't understand how we carry
But that's
trauma
probably
in our
why you
body.
wasn't paying attention to, if you were going through an illness, you weren't paying attention to how much he was lying and
I just needed somebody to take care of me. As a
gotcha.
woman, we need
Covering.
protection. We need security. You get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
What's interesting is he didn't provide any of those things. But that
But he
doesn't
did care
mean,
for you while you were
oh, hell
sick.
no. Oh, no. I would go to the doctor 3 days a week. He'd never even ask what the doctor said. I was 98 pounds, could never remember ever being 98 pounds. And he would go, oh, you look so good. Oh, no, I look crackish.
So then what ma'am,
There's the
what
truth.
gave, what gave you the perception then that he was taking care of you?
It
And
wasn't
at that time.
it wasn't about that. What I realized is he was much like my father, and I worked so hard all my life to get his approval. And so I flipped that from my dad to him working to get
Mm.
his approval. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't matter that I'm a woman with 6 degrees and I have none of that matters. And we try to put that up as a facade to say that that matters and that's going to make us make. That's not true. That's not. We are 100% of the time going to get what we need. Whether or not we get it from the right place, it doesn't matter. And whether or not we're perceiving it to be the thing we really need, if it feels like what we need, we'll do that. And so I carried that trauma, didn't know that I was carrying that trauma until a year after I left him. And a year after I left him, I'll never forget, I'm sitting in my bed and I'm crying because I'm pissed. Because why hasn't he called me and apologized? Right? And
So a
finally,
year later, you were still waiting for the phone
oh, I was
call?
still waiting for the phone call.
Okay.
And finally, God said, well, when you going to apologize to you? Because your expectation was that he would love you better than you love yourself. Because if
Mm.
you loved you, you would have never been with that man. And
Mm.
that was the beginning of my healing from my trauma. Is that I had to learn, because what do they teach us, right? God first, your husband second, wrong order. I
Mm.
can't even give him something I don't have. It's got to be God first, me second, and then my spouse.
So your healing came from a spiritual standpoint.
Oh, yeah,
Gotcha.
absolutely. And I've always been connected with God. All this happened after being the first lady of a church, having a really close. I remember my relationship with God starting at the age of 3 years old on my third birthday. Like I've always been really connected to God. That didn't change what my journey was and what I had to learn. It didn't make me stupid. It didn't make me naive. It made me a human person having a human experience on earth. And this is my journey.
Gotcha. So how would you say you navigated that transition? Let's talk about the second husband, because it's a, well, I don't know, both
Well, let's talk
were
about the
pretty
first. My
tragic, but
second
yeah,
husband, I
that's what I
didn't
was gonna
have any
say.
problems with my second
Okay.
husband other
Gotcha.
than the mental health issue. I think my second husband was the best man I ever married in my life. He was
Excellent.
my best friend. I didn't have any complaints, and I think had he not have been scarred from the military, we probably would probably still be married.
That's a whole nother segment.
But my first husband, after we divorced, I dealt with um, being my daughter being discriminated against from coming either from a single family home, which is not accepted, or a divorced family home, right? Or me being ostracized from the church, right, because of who he was or who he is. It wasn't, until I think my daughter was 12, maybe older, 13 or 14, we moved to Texas, that we decided, I hate you, you hate me, we're even. But we're going to co parent and we're going to do, because we're going to be in each other's lives for the rest of our lives, whether we like it or not.
Right.
Our objective is to make sure that our daughter is happy, healthy, whole. So if that is that we have to sacrifice whatever we have to do to make sure that she makes it in the world, then we agree to do that. And even if you would hear us now, or every time I go to California or whenever he comes to Texas, he brings me cupcakes and we talk on the phone about all kinds of stuff. And I have to remember, dude, we're not friends. This conversation's gone on 20
You almost
minutes.
sucked me into being your
Right.
friend.
We're not friends. We have a daughter who we've agreed to make sure that she's happy, healthy, whole. And so, if I was to look back and change anything in my life, I wouldn't change it. I got my daughter out of that relationship. Yes, it did scar me to the fact that when you're an abused person, there's things that you can't deal with anymore. You always think of shelter and defense. You can't deal with loud noises or the assumption that someone is yelling at you because you are
Mm.
automatically, I don't even hear you. I go straight into defense. How can I hide? How can I get away from you? Is there a safe exit? That's all I'm thinking about. So that stigma I still carry. But as far as me wanting to kill him, I don't want to kill him anymore.
Oh, good
That's my
job.
yeah, that's
Yeah,
my
good
daughter's
job.
father. As a matter of fact, we thought we were about to get a son-in-law, or yeah, and so we were both. We think she gonna marry him. We what? He's gone. Oh, we ain't gonna never get no grandkids, and so that's where we are now. So when I look back over my relationship, yes, I didn't grow up in a household where my parents fought, so I didn't hear my parents argue. Now my mother shot my daddy, that's a whole nother conversation. There was
Well,
no
oh, well, I
argument.
don't know which I
uh
would rather. I
yeah,
don't
well,
know.
no, there was no fussing and fighting and slamming of doors or raising of voices. I wasn't raised that way. And so for me to get into a marriage where that was daily, I didn't understand it. But now, when I look back at my first marriage, I'm glad that we do have a
Yeah,
happy help.
amicable
Oh, we're
final.
very amicable. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, how I navigated mine was really my tribe, my friends, my family. When I tell you they were there for me, because that was the most hurtful thing I had ever experienced in my life. It was times that words couldn't pass through. I had no voice. I would try to speak, and I felt choked, right? But my family, my boys came. Hey, what do you need? I'm like, I need, because I'm stuck here, right? He's gone. I'm here, and I need to change my environment somehow. So my boys came in. They one of my boys got a painter, start painting the house, changing out furniture. My girls, my sister, they stayed with me even when I couldn't talk. They just talked to each other and watched TV, whatever. But they were there for me, and that was the most important factor for me to get through everything. And then finally he and I was able to get to an amicable place. And so, which brings me to the next question about navigating the legal process, right, of a divorce. I never ended up being able to experience the legal aspect of a divorce because we never got divorced. Because when we were looking at getting a divorce, he became very ill. And so, in talking to three different attorneys, right, I said, let me choose two women and a man, right, to get some advice. And they were like, don't do it. You gonna owe him alimony. This is Texas. And like, he ended up on dialysis and things like that. So he became very ill. And they were like, don't do it. Not only that, he wouldn't do it. Every time I talked about divorce, he'd be, I'm sick. I can't talk about this. I'm like, what? So we never got a divorce. And so I recently lost him, and buried him in February. So, but during the time that we were apart, our friendship withstood. So that was the thing I was most proud about, is that I wasn't deceived by that. I always said that our friendship was the strongest thing in our marriage, and it did even survive our marriage as a couple. How did you guys navigate your divorce, the legal aspect?
Can I say something about what you just said? Because I
Sure.
think that's important. We have these ideas about what a healthy marriage looks like. And we go, as long as we're friends, but that's just not true. That's just not true. As long as we're honest,
Mm-hmm.
I think really is it.
That's key.
I could not like you, Joker,
Mm-hmm.
but if you're honest with me and I'm honest with you,
I
I
can
can make
respect you at
I can
least.
make decisions every day, and
Mm-hmm.
we can do this thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we put too much emphasis on the things that really aren't the is not the thing. And I learned that from I call them my grandparents, but they're my really my cousin's grandparents. But they were married for 79 years. That is sick to even say that somebody's married for 79 years. And I used to talk to them all the time, and they would always talk about this. Listen, if I don't feel good today, I just told her I don't feel good today. I woke up and said I don't feel good today. She understood what that meant. She understood. Don't mess with this joker. Make him a sandwich.
And
Don't
leave them
try.
alone.
Don't try to fix him. Let his truth be his truth for right now. And when he wants you to engage to solve something, he will come and tell you. But he had to be truthful and honest enough to be able to say, I'm feeling this, that I need this from you. And if that was, that literally was it. It's like, be honest and deal from a place of truth. For my marriages, were you going to say something?
I was just gonna say I think it's layered, right? Um, it's a multitude of things that could be true at once, right? That are true at once. Meaning the honesty, the friendship, you know, marriage and relationship is different things to different people.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But I agree with you with honesty is core.
Mm-hmm.
Because even though we remained friends, him being dishonest wouldn't allow me to be a couple with him again.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that's the hard part. It's like, I can I can become your friend, but once you betray my trust, I know you have the capacity to do that.
Yep.
So I can't trust that anymore. You've taken that away from me. There's no way to get that back.
Mhm.
Um, so with my marriages, both were easy. I mean, I went to the courthouse, I got paperwork, I filled out the paperwork. In Texas, they'll even give you an attorney to look over the paperwork because the judge don't want to be fooling with you
They
with some
must have not
nonsense.
objected
A
because
non-contestant.
Well, so no, my first husband did, and my second husband left the state. So
so yeah.
he was
So it was
gone.
easy peasy.
Yeah.
Cause I've been hearing some nightmares with regards to
Yeah.
divorce. I'm talking one of my clients just said his divorce cost him over $100,000
Mm-mm.
contested.
Mm-mm.
Yours was
I
simple
did my own. My first divorce, I did.
because she play an attorney on
I
TV.
play an attorney on TV, and I don't know why he let me do it because I'm like, I get 50% of all the royalties on all that music you wrote. I'm still waiting on a check if you're watching this podcast, and I get half of
I'm
his
not doing this with her.
retirement, which is probably why he still want to be cool with me because it's retirement. You should be retiring in about.
It's retirement time.
You want to piss me off
I'm
now?
about to get a
Right.
check.
So, no, and to be honest with you, I don't want it. He worked for that retirement. I didn't. I didn't. But I did my own
Aren't you
divorce.
sweet?
Well, I it was just you have to sometimes you have to show people that you hit harder.
Mm.
And
Okay.
so in my divorce, I didn't ask for anything. I just wanted him to pay child activities,
Not child support,
not
child
child support.
Cause
activities.
So
she
he took
playing
me
that
to court.
attorney.
And then the judge said, "Oh, you ain't never paid child support. You got to pay back rearages."
So he messed himself up.
Right. So
Mm.
I'm like, dude, I never asked you for a dime. I just said I wanted you to help take care of this child. She's in dance. What wasn't my daughter in? She was in everything. She was in Microsoft Office at 3. I don't even know if she could spell Microsoft. Anyway, but yeah, but I did my own divorce, so it was pretty easy for me. I mean, I wouldn't recommend to anybody else because when you're in a fight, sometimes it clouds your judgment. And I did it because I wanted to get as far away from him as possible for his sake. So I couldn't kick in any more doors, and stuff like that. And I was in counseling and I was like, okay, so I need to run away. And I'm great at running away. And I wanted to run away just to keep him safe so my daughter could still say she had a father who was alive, if you want me to be honest.
Okay.
And but now, like I said, We have a happy, healthy, whole child, and we both contributed to that. So I'm grateful.
Well, since we're on you, let's talk about um, how has your views on relationship and marriage and everything changed since your divorce?
I think for me, I'm listening more in relationships, listening to their past history. Before I never wanted to hear about the other woman or whoever you were married to before, but now I want to know, even though it's still one sided. I want to know, what did you learn or what was your part in all of it? So now I think I'm asking more questions, and then it'll help me to be able to make a decision. I think I'll never do I ever want to be back into an abusive relationship, whether it's physical, verbal, mental, financial. So there are things now that I'm looking for in the conversations instead of a lot of kiki kaka ha ha
Mhm.
ooh, love bugs and stuff like that. Now I'm asking questions that I don't think I asked before.
Gotcha. So has it changed with regards to financial implications? Would you handle your finances any differently, or would
Well,
you do anything
yes.
different there?
My first marriage, he took every because when I put him out, I wasn't thinking about going to take money out of the bank because the one thing we never fought over was money. We fought about everything. I mean, he was mad about everything. I just didn't participate in the fight because my father said you never argue with a fool. So
That part.
I'll just go quiet and let you argue with yourself. But
Right.
the one thing he was never upset about was finances, and that was the first thing he took. He took every dime except for $49 and 49 cents, which was my passcode for years, just to remind myself you'll never get all of my money again. So yeah, I think that when it comes to our finances, there's going to be some separation. Even if it's your play money, my play money, or whatever, but all of my eggs would never be in the same basket. Not
Okay.
all of them, some, not
Right.
all. But I believe in the institution of marriage. I believe in everything that it stands for when you're with the right partner.
Awesome. What about you, Colette?
I agree with a lot of what Cass said as far as believing in the institution of marriage. A, man, I had the most amazing grandfathers, and I have the most amazing big cousins in my family. And one of the things, I haven't been in a lot of relationships, partly because my cousins would beat them up. So that had a lot to do with it.
There's a
Um,
lot of violence on this couch.
oh God,
No,
no, I have a
no,
cousin who
no,
I'm
still,
like, I don't know.
it's not my
If my
fault.
no.
I don't know people. My guess, that family shoot people. They beat people up. I don't know what's happening. I'm gonna bring them back for a different segment. All right, go
Family
ahead.
When
violence.
women go gangster, no, no.
You'll see them again. Okay, go ahead.
No, my out of all of the girls in my family, I actually stopped the generational curse where girls in my family had babies by the age of 16. I was the first
Mm,
one that did not. And my cousins, they are still the same today. I've got about 17 daddies. But you know how they raise us to be looking for a husband?
mm-hmm.
They never allowed me to do that. They never allowed me to be looking for a husband or looking for a man or what a man can do for me. It was always, no, we know you can do something. So that's what we expect you to do. And any boy we think is gonna look at you. Friend, no friend, we don't care, we gonna beat him up. He gonna understand you can't be touched. So coming from that and then having the two most amazing grandfathers in the entire world makes it hard on a brother. Like, I'm spoiled. That's the truth. And I come in saying, look, bro, I'm spoiled. So
I don't see nothing wrong with that.
we gonna have to maintain this. Or you ain't got to maintain this, but you're gonna need to be over there and I'm gonna be over here.
Mm-hmm.
And that's gonna be fine. So I'm always paying attention to how do you treat your daughters? How do you treat the mother of your children? If y'all mad at each other, we can't rock because that's not how I rock with my son's father. We
It's because he's
co-parent.
still in love with
Mm-hmm.
them. If they still
Right. You
talking.
still have some emotional ties if y'all,
Yeah.
or if she crazy, I ain't got time for her crazy. So you gonna have to
Mm-hmm.
be over there with them,
I
and I'm
always
gonna be
said
over
that I
here.
think that that's too much emotion. That if you let somebody garner that kind of emotion out of you, there's feelings still there.
Yes. And use
Because
your resources. You
mm-hmm.
use your resources. So I am always paying attention to how are you treating people? How do you speak? What do you talk about? What do you say about people in general? If you're the I don't like people kind of person, then you're not my person. I love people. And what I do is engaging with people every day. So if you don't like people, then I can't take you nowhere. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? And then can I take you from the boardroom to sitting on the crates at the car wash with some Timbs and a hoodie on? Like, can I do that? Because that's my life. I'm in these different spaces, and so I'm paying attention to that. And then I'm also paying attention to how does he talk about his money? Is his money, or is he like, look, babe, what we about to do is we gonna take this 2,500.
Right.
We finna go flip it. We about to turn it into 10 because you know how we
Are
do.
we flipping
I'm just
birds?
saying, it ain't gotta be birds, but I'm just saying, is that what he thinking about his money? Or is he like, oh, I don't want her touching my money. She don't need to know nothing about it. Baby, let me tell you something. God created me to create. And so
Hmm.
whatever you keep from me, I can't increase or create.
Right.
So if that's your life, then let that be your life, but I'm not your girl.
Absolutely. I totally feel the same way. I see nothing wrong with a prenup though.
Oh
You
God,
know,
yes.
going forward, a lot of people run from the word. They feel insulted when somebody asks them for a prenup. I'm like, no, I want us to have a prenup, right?
Yes.
Because I need you to understand what's yours, what's mine when we come in, right? Now, moving forward, what we create together, that's a different story, right? Because I know,
Exactly.
like you said, I'm going to elevate you.
Yes.
We're going to get money together. So I'm fine with us sharing what we grow together. But what was before you, what was before me, I don't want what you don't want me to have, you
Right.
know? So, that is uh that is it on this topic for today. I think we got some really good conversation today, and I really appreciate you ladies for joining me today. This was a very sensitive subject for me today. Um,
Thank you for
and
having us.
and I am so glad that you guys were a part of my launch, my first podcast. Thank you.
Yay!
Thank you guys for hanging out with Money Matters with Shaq. But before I go, I have a gift for each of my guests. It's a Money Matters podcast t shirt. So please pass this on to Dr. Cassandra.
So we got to get merch.
Yes, I have merch.
Thank you very much.
So, yes, guys, this podcast is a series called Surviving Tragedy. There's going to be a slew of different topics covered under this series. So, our next topic is going to be surviving the loss of a loved one. So, please do tune in. Make sure that you share, subscribe, and like my podcast. Thank you so much. See you next time.